I'm going to explain a little bit about what Westinghouse does. And then I was asked really to talk about what I do and how I came to do what I do. And then really about how we can support schools and anyone who's trying to advance the STEM subjects in our community. And I can give you some tips and hints, and then also offer us as an actual resource as well to support you in the future. I will say I'm happy I'm going for the experiment, because I'm doing PowerPoints, and experiments are always much more fun to watch. So we'll get through the PowerPoints and then you'll probably see some cool stuff with the experiments. So I'm going to talk about who Westinghouse is. It's surprising how many people in this region don't know who Westinghouse is, and we are situated here in South Carolina, very predominantly in the southeast of the United States, and actually down on Bluff Road. So I'll talk a little bit about what we do, and it's not televisions. I'll just say that. Everyone thinks we make televisions and refrigerators. Then talk about my career path, what I've done, my background, what I do now, and I was asked to talk a little bit about the research areas that I'm in as well. I'll give you some perspective on why I think STEM is so important, and then really how we can offer some support in STEM. What you see, WIN support, is actually women in nuclear, but we actually have several groups that I'll talk about. But we have a team at Westinghouse who's made up of largely females, and we are dedicated to the support of STEM, to professional development for women, and also community service as well. So who's Westinghouse? So hopefully I've cleared up the fact we're not making televisions, but we are actually owned by Toshiba, who's a company based out of Japan, and they do make the televisions and laptops. But we were acquired by them around about 6 or 7 years ago, and used to be owned by British Nuclear Fuels. Toshiba decided they wanted to work in the nuclear industry more, particularly the pressurized water reactor business, and they bought Westinghouse from British Nuclear Fuels, which is, you can probably tell by my accent, I'm actually from England, and I worked in England and transferred here about 12 years ago. So what we do, I thought I'd kind of do a nuclear 101. What we do is really this portion of the fuel cycle. So obviously there's huge, huge activity in the nuclear industry. The first part is obviously gathering the nuclear material. It goes through an enrichment process, and then we actually fabricate the nuclear fuel at Westinghouse. We actually as well do work in the reactor business. We build reactors, we service reactors, and we support reactor operations. And then we also work in the dry cask storage business as well. So after nuclear fuel is used and it's taken out of the reactor, we work in the storage area. Reprocessing is not something that's done in the United States, but it is around the world, and we do support that around the world as well. So you can see we're a part of this overall nuclear fuel cycle here, where we're actually fabricating UO2 pellets.
Is Westinghouse associated with SRS at all?
There isn't that's a good question. There isn't like a direct relationship. We don't own the Savannah River site, but we do have people who work out there for various projects. But they're an independent organisation. Yeah. This is actually the plant. So I was saying that we're located here in South Carolina. We're actually down on Bluff Road. So if you come off 77 and go away from the city, we're actually down on Bluff Road. And it's a huge facility, and a lot of people just have no idea it's back there. So I wanted to show you like an aerial photo of it. We're actually based out on the Congaree Swamp, and you can see the large building. That's really the main area, the manufacturing area. But around it, we have all these different chemical facilities, water processing facilities. There's actually a fire brigade back there as well. So we actually have our own fire brigade that's on site all the time. And then you can see that, obviously there's a huge ancillary support as well. But this is just a snapshot of it. The actual acreage is huge. We own a huge acreage out by the Congaree Swamp. And we deal with things that come with the swamp. So, we've had alligators come up to the fences, snakes, all the other things that you encounter sort of being in the swamp area. But it's a combination of mechanical processing and chemical processing. And this is really some pictures of what you see inside. So we do offer some limited tours for the facility, unfortunately, we cannot bring minors into the facility, and that's a real shame because of, I'd love to get students in there, but we can't have anybody under the age of 18 come to the facility. So when they go off to college, we can get people in there, but unfortunately, until they reach that age, they can't come in. But what you see when you go in there is what looks like just a general manufacturing area. So you'll be familiar with manufacturing areas. But we have some very significant chemical production, obviously nuclear fuel production, and then manufacturing of components. So the people that work there are a combination of craftsmen, technicians, electricians, engineers. They're skilled not only to work with nuclear material, but they also go through a substantial amount of training to become capable of working with chemicals. And we work with chemicals like hydrochloric acid and other, ammonia, things that are quite severe chemicals. So we have like a very highly skilled workforce that work in this facility. This is really looking at our overall business. So we are, as I said, we're basically involved in everything from building the reactors, the nuclear fuel, software, anything that supports the actual running of the plant. The area that I'm in is the area at the bottom of an organisation called the Engineering Centre of Excellence, which is kind of like, I think it's kind of the cool area of the business because we get to do all the innovation stuff and the development stuff for nuclear fuel in the industry. We basically have the technology and we manage the technology for about 50% of the nuclear plants in the world. And if you know anything about the development of nuclear at the moment, there is a huge growth in nuclear in the world. So China, for example, is expeditedly developing nuclear power plants. They have recognised the energy demands are increasing, their carbon dioxide emissions have also increased, which they need to substantially reduce, and they focus now on nuclear. So they're building, and they will be the first to actually go online with new nuclear reactors. The first time in, I think it's 30 years, I think now. South Carolina is probably going to be the second place in the world. And BC Summer, which is just up the road in Jenkinsville, is actually building the same style of plants that's being built in China right now with Westinghouse. I say it may be the second because just down the road in Georgia, Vogel plant, which is just outside of Augusta, is also doing the same. So they're building new nuclear reactors. So you think about the southeast of America, and it really is, the southeast is kind of what we call the nuclear hub of the United States because we have such a strong presence in nuclear reactors, nuclear fuel development. That's really substantial, and it's quite monumental to think that the first American reactors to go online for that many years is going to be here in the south, and it's going to be with people from this region who are working in this area. So this is the plant, and you can see it's opened in 1969, so it's 40 years old. This is what a nuclear fuel assembly looks like. And I put that in because most people have never seen one, obviously. I'm not sure what it looks like. But so you can get a magnitude of these. And each reactor takes, depending on the size of them, usually takes about 150 of these at a time. So you can see how big they are. They're made from different components, but inside them are nuclear pellets, and that's what we produce at the facility in Columbia. And I brought with me some cards that are at the front there where Elizabeth is sat, and you can basically take these home if there's enough to go around. If there's not, I've also put my business card, and I can get you stuff. So we'll get stuff out to your schools if there's not enough to go around. But we produce these, and I kind of like giving these out because it gives everybody a perspective of what's being produced out just down the road. The cards will tell you that basically one of these pellets, which is inside of the fuel rods there, is basically the same amount of energy as 1,700 pounds of coal that is produced. It's basically the same as 149 gallons of oil. So we try and emphasise, the amount of energy that we can produce using nuclear technology versus the fossil fuels that are involved. Really to give some people a perspective on what nuclear is capable of, in our industry. Some of the things that I'll point out as well on this particular slide is that we're employing about 1,200 people in the region just at that facility. Now, you think about VC Summer, just up the road, like I said, we have a Westinghouse office there. They're employing thousands more, and then there's other businesses around us that supply us, that support us. So it's really a very, very significant employment opportunities in this region related to working in the nuclear industry. Over 10% of the electricity that is generated in the entire US comes from the site at Columbia. So we provide 10% of the energy for the United States. It's also 20% globally, which is quite a substantial number. So 20% of the global energy that is produced comes directly out of the fuel assemblies that we're shipping from our site in Hopkins, South Carolina. Then to give you some perspective on where we stand, those are the reactors that are in South Carolina. But not many people realise that 50% of the energy that's produced in South Carolina comes from nuclear energy as well. So it's a very heavily dependent state on nuclear energy. More so, in fact, than any other of the suppliers in the state. Quite a substantial number. And then just to give you a perspective on where we are in the world, I'll just show you a few maps. I'm not going to go through every country. But we have a huge presence in Asia. China, as I said, is very much involved in new reactor build. They have actually bought like a blueprint of our facility, and they're building it over in China as well, so that they can start to produce the same thing we do here in Colombia over in China, and we support them with that particular project. I work in Korea and Japan, China very frequently, but we also have places in Taiwan. Out in Brazil, it's a little fuzzy, but we work in South America as well. So South America has a nuclear industry that is actually looking to build new reactors as well. Argentina is, Mexico is. So in South America, traditionally, not a heavy nuclear industry. That's where they're heading towards, is the nuclear industry. And then in Europe, very, very strong nuclear industry. In France, 80% of the energy that is produced in France comes from nuclear industry, and they are heavily for nuclear industry. They're actually going to be providing energy to Germany, who is shutting down the nuclear reactors. They provide energy to the United Kingdom as well through their company, yeah. But it's significant presence in Europe as well. And then countries that are not up here that are kind of moving forward are like Malaysia, India, a few countries that we're working with quite actively right now. So the business is really, what we'll say booming, I don't know, but it's like the business is growing really significantly. So I'll tell you, now that I've sort of told you about Westinghouse and what we do and the nuclear industry, I just wanted to tell you, I was asked to talk a little bit about myself and what I've done in my background. Basically, I started off in high school, and I was somebody who really enjoyed sciences. I liked most subjects, to be honest, but I did enjoy sciences, and I was somebody who wanted to go to college. I definitely knew I wanted to do that, and I really was quite sort of methodical about looking at opportunities. And I remember going out and looking and saying, what am I going to do, and researching, and there was engineering sort of was popping up as something that was well paid, had lots of opportunities. There were statistics that showed there are more jobs than there are people going into engineering, and it kind of appealed to me. So I went out and did some secondments and some internships quite young with companies, and I was very fortunate. I think I was 14 when I did my first internship, and I went to a film manufacturer and worked as an analytical chemist with them for a summer, and really, really enjoyed it, but felt like being in the lab all the time was too restrictive to me. So I saw the engineers who were coming in and out of the lab all the time, and went back the next summer and followed a chemical engineer, and really thought, oh, this is a nice fit for me. The school system in England is slightly different, so like at 16 I basically stopped doing most subjects apart from maths, physics, chemistry, biology, and we do a sort of general studies class as well, but at 16 we focus purely on what you're going into college to do. So I started doing pure sciences at like 16 and nothing else. I went on, got an advanced degree in chemical engineering, and got 3 job offers leaving college. So the whole premise of I want to come out of college and have a job and sort of know I'm going to have a security in that sense worked. It was 3 good job offers. Had a tough time deciding which one to go for, but decided to go into nuclear, and it was purely at the time because it was something that I just knew nothing about, and I thought this is something completely different. I'm really glad I did it now because the chemical industry changed a lot, which is where I've done like internships, and the chemical industry really took a rapid decline afterwards, but nuclear didn't, so I'm really glad I did that. One thing I will say, when I started off looking at going into engineering and science as a young girl when I was 14, 15, I went out to teachers and said, this is what I want to do, and the teachers were very, very, very supportive. The guidance counsellors that we had were not so supportive, and they tried to discourage and say, let's look at other things, let's try and focus on other things. And one thing I do tell students now is that even when, somebody tells you you're not going to be able to do that, if it's something you want to do, you've got to put the time and effort in to basically achieve it. And so, it's not like a showstopper, but I really encourage students to sort of, challenge themselves to, if they want to do something, that they go after it themselves. I literally sat with a phone book looking for intern opportunities, so I sort of relay to students that you've got to have that motivation to get to the things that you want to do. But I'm still, educationally, I love studying, and so I've been going back and forwards to Caltech and done sort of technical project management and advancement courses. And the Caltech is where the Big Bang Theory is based. It's like it's kind of funny to watch that show and having studied there and going there. But it's very nice for me as a scientist, as an engineer, to think that I'm a part of that particular institute, because where my classes are right next to where Albert Einstein's papers are stored. So it's a very, very cool experience. I like their programs because they're a very technical university, but they understand industry, they understand business and commerce, so it really matches well together with what I do. Basically, my roles and responsibilities, so coming from England, I moved over here in 2002. I worked at British Nuclear Fuels at the Sellafield plant for 2 years. Since then, I've basically been in engineering positions that have just increased, like the roles of responsibility and diversity. But one of the things that I think I'm most proud of is the fact that I'm working in the Women in Nuclear outreach program. And so I'm the chair of the Southeast Region Women in Nuclear Business, which is really looking at the areas that we focus on are professional development, community service, and improving STEM in our region, and trying to get out to students and different entities to promote STEM subjects. We also do some networking, which is a great thing, but it gives us the opportunities to go out and actually interact directly with students, with teachers and parents, and that's really where I think one of the main benefits of what I do is actually at. I do a lot of stuff in the nuclear industry, but my personal benefits and what I really enjoy doing is talking to those kids and parents to encourage them into the science field. I'll talk about what I do now. Basically, I've got a really long title. It's just horrible. I'm the manager of project management, business processes, design and administration services for the Engineering Centre of Excellence. It goes on forever, but so basically, I'm responsible for management of a global and domestic fuel development program. So we have our nuclear fuel that you saw And we are always trying to improve it. We're always trying to address any concerns that exist, with it. And so we have major projects that are underway all the time, developing and designing nuclear fuel. We also work with a lot of customers looking at security of supply and economic improvements we can make. So obviously our customers are wanting to make energy in the most affordable fashion that they can. So we're looking at how do we enhance our fuel? How do we make it last longer? Obviously safety is a huge thing, so fuel reliability is just one of the most important things that we work on every day. And then the other thing that I work in very heavily is research areas. So my current focal area of research is really looking at fuel and nuclear reactors when we have a seismic event. And everybody knows, what happened over in Japan. There was a very, very significant seismic event that's shut down the nuclear industry in Japan right now. There's only a couple of reactors that are operating. And so I'm working most of my time right now looking at, how do we demonstrate that in a seismic event the reactors are safe, the fuel is safe, and that we're supporting, the public in that sort of situation. For me, it's just really fascinating area and really, really valuable that we look at that, because what happened in Japan was very, 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 very extreme situation. But unfortunately, what also happened was a very, very badly publicised the event was very, very badly publicised, and a lot of the facts that really happened didn't come out. So for me, it's very personally important to try and work on, containing the myths and really working on explaining to people what happened in Japan and what is happening with the nuclear industry in that field. So I kind of enjoy it from a scientific perspective. It challenges me and I really enjoy it, but then from an industry perspective, I feel really proud to kind of work on that issue as well. So why I think STEM is so important. I just want to touch on a few key points, because one of the things that we find when we go out to schools, and we find when we're talking to parents in particular, is that people think, well, I'm not good at maths, I'm not good at this, and they're not quite sure why they would go into it. They think science is boring, and so we try and think of ways to invigorate students. What can we do to kind of really capture them? There's some point, I think, in most students' lives where they sort of have that moment of, oh, this is what I want to do, And so we really try and reach out at so many different levels to try and engage students and try and just be that time where somebody goes back and they say, I remember when this happened, and it's really got me excited. The thing I remember when I was young was a teacher doing an experiment and creating the fireworks, and that to me was just like one of the most exciting things. And I remember thinking, oh gosh, this is where I want to be. I want to be involved in this. It's exciting, it's fun, and it's never going to be the same every day. So I talk to them a lot about, why we do what we do. So for us, for me personally, being a part of the nuclear industry and being a part of what I do and being involved in science is very, very important because of what it impacts. And I think that this is Bill Gates. I think that one of the things that he has done most recently, and you can find this on, TED. If you go to TED and Google Bill Gates, he'll come up and he's talking on this. One of the things he's done, and I think this is so clever and so cool, is he's gone back and basically correlated why having a secure energy supply also impacts people's daily lives. And he has the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they're focused on resolving the issue of poverty, major issue. His foundation really focuses on food and healthcare, but he's done some realization over the last few years that says, all of that food, all of that medicine, all those things, one thing that we have to get control of is a secure energy supply and climate control, because without those things, you cannot have schools running effectively, you cannot have hospitals running effectively, food production, things like that is going to be impacted. And so he's gone back and he's said, he now supports nuclear energy because he's recognised that there is parts of the world where it's probably the most effective solution to those issues. And for me, that was like amazing, because for me, being a part of the nuclear industry and doing what we do down the road in Hopkins is really important in terms of, you know, supplying affordable energy across the world. When I've gone out to Coburg, our reactor in South Africa, I've also visited like the townships out there where there is no electricity supply. You know, there are massive parts of the world that have no energy supply. And there's massive parts of the world that don't have affordable energy supply. And so what he's saying is, if we can control our energy demand, if we can control our energy supply, make sure that we have something that's affordable, sustainable, reliable, we're going to fix all these ups. And so I talk to students about this because there's some students who may be passionate about, they want to go out and help somebody in the world. They may want to change the way people are living and the conditions that people are living in. And this is one way to do it, to become part of a solution like science. It doesn't have to be nuclear, it could be, you know, wind energy, something like that. But it's being part of the solution to fix that. And that's one way you can excite some students. It's what excites me every day, you know, going to work. Talk to students as well about opportunities around the world. Some people, you know, are never going to leave South Carolina, but they want the opportunity to. So being a part of an industry or having an attribute like a STEM, you know, qualification is going to open the door to those kind of things. And I tell students about the places that I've travelled and the places that we go to. We show them the map of the world. We show them the graphs that I showed you earlier about our customer base, and actually try and encourage them to think about more than just, you know, being in this area if that's what they want to do. This is a picture of me with, this was in Korea, with some guys in Korea. I never thought I would get to travel and see things that I've seen, and so for me it's like I really love to tell kids who may not think they're ever going to have that opportunity. It's real, you know, you can go to these countries and you're going to see some amazing things and be part of, you know, an amazing experience if you focus on, you know, finishing off school. There's a lot of diversity as well, and when I talk about diversity, it is within engineering, obviously. There's all different kinds of engineers. Everything that is made requires an engineer somewhere. But the other thing that I like to tell people is, you know, half of my team is not science background. There's finance people, there's quality people, you know, there's draftsmen. It doesn't have to be STEM, but you've got to have that appreciation and want to learn about science and technology. So I have a financial person that works for me. She's done classes in, you know, all kinds of scientific subjects because she's in the nuclear industry. But she's in finance, she did business at school, you know. So it's something that even if you're not, you know, if you're not driven by that, and if it's not your area of expertise, it's something that, you know, just understanding that if you continue to have an appreciation for it and if you stay in touch with it, it's still going to give you opportunities outside of, you know, wherever you're going. And then one thing again is really talking about the environment and trying to get people to be a part of a solution versus, you know, the global solution. So as I said, China is really, this is CO2 emissions across the world. And China is the biggest CO2 emitter, so the United States comes in a close second. I talk to students and say, okay, so what are we going to do? Like, what's the problem? What are we going to fix here? And really try and get them to think about how they can be a part of that solution as well. And, you know, some students are going to go away and think, okay, I don't care, you know, but some are going to really start to think about it and want to, you know, become involved and become, you know, advocates for this area. And then I talk about the other benefits of STEM. So one thing that I will say to students is the nuclear industry at the moment has the highest paying jobs for people who come out of school having finished their high school education. Not necessarily going into college, but having finished the high school education. The senior reactor operator position is a six-figure salary. You do not have to have a degree to go down that path. And so if you come out with a high school education and work to go to a nuclear reactor site, it's a very real opportunity. The The one thing I will say is that Midlands Tech as well at the moment has started to do a nuclear program. So it's not, doesn't mean you have to go to college. Midlands Tech has programs, and those are really good. We actually send teachers to that program. Those are really good ways to, you know, to go if you're not wanting to go to college, but to get into that field. I showed them the picture of me shark diving and talk about the opportunities that I've had. That, as I said, I just never thought I would get to do things like this. You know, I went shark diving because I went to a country where I was doing business, and lo and behold, they have shark diving there, so I did that. Went out to Japan. The yurt is from Inner Mongolia, which is a long story, but we have a business out in Inner Mongolia, and so got to experience all these things. And so I talk about like all the other things that come with STEM and explain to them, you know, it's not just about you know, going and getting a job at the end of the day. Financial stability is a huge thing, but you're going to have all these lifetime experiences. Also talk to them about the experience of college, you know, and the you know, the 5 years I spent at college and what it was, you know. I do encourage students. I know it's not for everyone, but I do say to them, if I was in their shoes now and I know what I know, I would stay in education as long as I could, you know. And so I really try and encourage them to do that. So really one of the questions as well that I was asked to address today is how do we support STEM and how can we support you? And so this is probably the more important aspect today. We are willing and very, very willing to come out and do anything that we're requested to do really in schools to support STEM. So we get requests to go to the careers fairs. We do that very gladly. The picture you saw before with the two ladies with the globe, that was a careers fair. We'll go out, we'll talk to students about what they want to do. Doesn't have to be science, could be any subject. You know, as I say, we send out people who are not science disciplined. But we really just want to encourage people to think about working in our industry as an option for them when they finish school. We also do classroom careers days, so we get asked a lot to come out and just talk about what we do as a job. You know, I've been there when there's been like fire brigade members and nurses and things like that. You know, we'll just talk about purely what it is to be an engineer. We do a lot of classroom experiments. So we can come out and do classroom experiments. We can do them in front of an audience. You know, we can actually get the kids to participate, and we'll do that. And we have like a whole list of easy classroom experiments that we've done over the years. And there's nothing worse than getting in front of a room full of kids and then your experiment failing miserably. So we've kind of tried and tested them, and we have quite a good set of those now. And then we also are willing and able, you know, to participate in STEM boards. So if you have a STEM board on your school and you need support in any way like that, we can also participate in that. And as I said, we also have this list of experiment ideas. If you don't want us to come in and do it with your kids, we can give you some ideas as well. And I'd be happy to feed them to Natasha as well, because I think you were saying you've got a list of those somewhere. So yeah, we'll definitely do that. And we try and do kind of low-cost stuff, you know, stuff that everybody has available to them. If we have some equipment that is needed, we have like cloud chambers and things, we're happy to loan them to schools. I know that budgets are extremely tight and difficult, so we're very conscious of that. We also work in the community, so if you're not in, I don't know if your school does things, but we also work in the community, and we turn that into kind of STEM-related activities. So, for example, this is us working on, I don't know if anyone knows the organisation Homeworks. These are students, and I think they were part of something called the Beta Club, or the Beta Club, which is like a volunteer organisation. I think they get some credits for it. They partner up with us, and we take them out to these events and basically mentor them through doing it. And we look at it like, okay, it's a good mentoring opportunity, but they're actually getting to learn practical skills. The girls here were painting, and then we replaced all these panes of glass as well on this gentleman's home. And so you get to learn all about, you know, practically, you know, how to use the tools and things like that, which of course is a great engineering thing. The picture up on the top right-hand side was actually at the Sister Care Shelter, which is one of the shelters for women and families who are in abusive relationships. We go in, we'll decorate them, we'll do all those things, but again, we take students in with us and we'll actually do it with them and show them tools and show them how to do things. It gives us a really nice opportunity to have one-on-one with these students, and it always amazes me, how eager and keen they are. It's really amazing to see how generous they are with the time and how keen they are to learn new skills as well when they get out and do that. So it gives us really nice interaction time with them. And then the other thing that we do is we work a lot on professional development. And so this could be for yourselves, it could be for students, anyone who's interested in this. We do a lot of things around teamwork. So one of the things that is very, very important in any kind of STEM career is the aspect of teamwork. And so we really try and get kids to work as teams and do little experiments with them and do little teamwork exercises together to do that. And then we can also do careers advice. So we've sat with a lot of students. Usually it's college-age students, but I would like to get more into that pre-college age as well. And we talk to them about careers and what they should think about and the steps they should take, to basically plan their careers out. Resume reviews, we'll do things like college application reviews, which I haven't listed here, and then interview practice. So we can actually do like interviews and give them sample questions of things that they might get asked, in an interview environment. It's good to do it ahead of the real thing. You don't want to scare a student. If they do it with us and it kind of seems real, it will really set them up for success. We also offer quite a bit of guidance on doing additional foreign languages. And that usually doesn't kind of connect with the STEM side of our business. But as I said, our global presence is just, I cannot tell you how small the world is getting. We work with people on a daily basis from around the world, and we're communicating with them all the time because the internet, video conferencing, all that kind of stuff has just really opened up the world. And so the other thing that I tell students is that when we go out and we talk to people, we're talking to people in Europe that basically speak 5-6 languages. So when you're looking for career opportunities, you're going up against people who have 5 or 6 languages. It's very important that our kids in this region really start to think about how they take on languages. We do homework support, so if kids are struggling with homework, we kind of lend a hand on that, like the homework clubs and things. And then mentoring. So if we have students who need particularly mentoring, one-on-one, we're very happy to do that. We have several people in our organisation that do that and spend a lot of quality time with particular students, and that's really working out. The thing that I would say is that we're pretty much open to anything, and we like to be, because we are engineers, because we are scientists, we like to think, if you've got a problem, we want to try and be part of the solution. And so if there's something that you think we could help with, please just let us know, because one thing that I can see is from an industrial perspective what we're missing. We're not seeing a lot of people going into engineering. We're not seeing a lot of people going into like skilled crafts like technicians, electricians, that kind of thing. And that's very difficult, and we don't understand why that is, but we don't see what you guys are seeing. And so it's hard for us to know, how can we support you? Because from our perspective, we want the best kids coming out of schools, and we want to be able to hire the best people. I personally want them to be from this region because it's become my home, and it's very important to me that we work on the kids in this region. But for me, we seem to have a gap at the moment about how do we support people the best, how does industry support schools the best. And so although we've listed all these other things open, I'm kind of equally as interested to hear what you guys need. I think we're going to do some networking later, but I'm very, very interested in that. I think that was what I had. I think we've got 5 minutes?
Yeah.
If there's questions,
5, 10
then we're going to
minutes,
do
yeah.
something later. What I will say is I did leave my business cards down here, and there's some of these pellet cards down there, and then there's some of the little nuclear trivia things, that you could take. So please take a look at that. Oh, I've written a note here as well, but I forgot to mention that one of the things, I should have put it in the presentation, one of the things that we're promoting at the moment is that on March 19th it's Earth Hour. So I don't know how many people are aware of this, but there's like a drive across the globe to switch off lights between the hours of 8:30 and 9:30 to try and conserve energy. So I thought I'd put a plug in for that, but I forgot about it. But yeah, if you can, share that with people, we're really part of promoting like responsibility around energy as well.
What did you call it?
Earth Hour.
Earth Hour.
Earth Hour. Yeah. Mel, I can send you the link, and maybe you can send it out to everybody. Is there any questions?